Hates Me was the debut album from the Beths, who are from New Zealand. And man, that shit was so good. Why was that album so good? I don't know how it hits the way it does, but in terms of like pop rock in the 2010s, power pop, there isn't really much I can point to and go, yeah, I genuinely love that. But the Beths killed it, man. That was a great debut album, a fantastic debut album even. Definitely one of the more exciting breakout bands and albums of 2018 and even the past couple of years, to be honest. They just hit the sweet spot. They just produced their songs in such a way that made them incredibly infectious and catchy while also having so much charm in the vocals. What a great album. And ever since, I've kind of been trying to champion that album the best I can, because I just have always wanted to spread the word on the Beths, because I think they have so many great songs. And, for a new band coming out of New Zealand, they deserve the shine wherever they can get it. And so I was definitely excited to hear this new album from them. I was anticipating it for a little while, and it's come out and it's definitely very good. I don't think it's quite as strong as the debut, but I think catching that spirit, that essence that they got on Future Me Hates Me is quite difficult to replicate. I mean, pointing at the obvious, first of all, it's not a sound that can really be taken very far. I mean, I think once you've done one song like it, a lot of the other songs are going to sound similarly, and that's kind of what's going on in this album here. But the energy that the debut album is kind of dissipating on some tracks. They've gone for more of a bit of like a somber ballady type album here, especially in the later half of the album. It doesn't fall flat on its face or anything, because they are good tracks, but they're just not quite as musically compelling as what I'd like them to be. They're definitely pretty though. Especially lyrically, there's something so wholesome about these lyrics on tracks like You Are a Beam of Light, which is just so lovely. It's so lovely. What a beautiful way to describe someone. The final track as well is a very laid back and chill way to end things off. Again, not quite as propulsive as what you'd expect, considering their debut album just had constantly like hard-hitting tracks that were leaning towards more pop punk, and this album doesn't really do that on these tracks. Another example would be Don't Go Away. Probably my least favorite, I must admit, because of the lyrical content. It's very childlike and a bit corny, like talking about how you don't want your best friend to leave. I mean, I guess we've all had that situation in our lives where, you might have a friend that's going to move away or something, but I just think the way the lyrics are presented is a little bit basic and not really detailed in a way that could be really descriptive and, written in a way that compels me. But the tracks that I do genuinely love on this album are easily up there with some of their best. I mean, Dying to Believe is just pop rock at its best. Jesus Christ, this track just has it all going for it. Jesus. What this track and plenty of other tracks on the album seem to get right, which I think might not have been as common on their debut, was the bloody backing vocals and the harmonies that come through. It's so friggin' good, especially that point in the track where the backing vocals is like, ah, woo! And the little callbacks as well, where she's like, I'm trying. They just add this extra oomph to these songs, because the instrumental's already so upbeat and, pop punk flared, but then you've just got these fantastic vocals accompanying it, and it just makes them so special in the world of this genre. I think that's why I love this band so much, especially when you look at some of the more aging bands in this genre that came through at the height and the peak of this genre. You've got your bands like Blink-182, you've got your bands like Green Day. They're just sounding so tired and dated these days, not really willing to try anything a bit different, and the music is just sounding worse than ever. Whereas, the Beths are coming through, they've just got this energy. They're trying something a little bit different on some of the tracks too, which I really appreciate. And then even when you look at some of the other bands that came from that genre but are completely different now, like Panic at the Disco or Fall Out Boy, for example, like the Beths are really keeping it alive, and that's what I really appreciate about them. The opening track has this crazy amount of fire to it that I just love so much. Like, it just gets the album going instantaneously. And even when you compare the Beths to some other like power pop punk bands these days in the modern day, they're just so rigid in the way that they, keep to the genre's formula. The vocals are usually whiny as hell and the lyrics are derivative. Like, I don't know, I just think what the Beths bring is something a little bit more exciting and fresh. I love the song Acrid and Jump Rope Gazers. These tracks are fantastic in the way that they're presented lyrically. They're so heartfelt and they have so much power in the emotion, even if the lyrics aren't anything you've, never heard before. They're not the most unique and original, but I think, the singer Liz, she really sells what she's saying much of the time. Overall, really, there's no reason to not like this album, especially if you already like the debut. But if you haven't heard the debut, you really should be getting on that first before you hear this, because I think this is a really strong sophomore release. It's not a slump by any stretch of the imagination. Even if it's not quite as good, I still really appreciate it and I still get so much out of it, especially on the best tracks as well. Like that first stretch of songs is so damn strong. So I'm going to 7 out of 10. I think it's definitely worth your time. I really like the Beths, just happy that they're keeping it alive and they're keeping, the momentum going with their music. They're still putting out great tracks. And they deserve a lot more attention, they really do. So listen to them, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching my review, hopefully you enjoyed it. Have a good day, subscribe, and goodbye.